Flame Swordsman Archetype originally started out as just one card used by Joey Wheeler. That card was of course Flame Swordsman, a level 5 fusion monster with no effect. It was made by merging Flame Manipulator and Masaki the Legendary Swordsman together. Well, at least that's how it was made in the real world when it was released in the first ever set, Legend of the Blue Eyes White Dragon. In the anime, strangely, it started out as a normal main deck monster, despite still technically being a fusion monster, since in the original Japanese, the fusion materials are still printed on the card, despite having a normal monster border and being summoned like a normal monster. After Season 1, however, Flame Swordsman's card would be changed to an actual main deck normal monster. The dub, however, was having none of this, and so the dub would try to sweep this under the rug by changing the border to Fusion Purple. However, despite this, Flame Swordsman would never be fusion summoned. In fact, the only time it is ever summoned to the field normally after Duelist Kingdom is one dream sequence in Battle City where Joey's having a fever dream about winning a tournament or something. Every other time it's cheesed out with either Blue Flame Swordsman's effect or already being on the field via the Deckmaster mechanic. In fact, Joey must have liked Flame Swordsman as his Deckmaster so much because it had a special ability, and they must have decided, let's put that effect into an actual main deck monster. That card would be Blue Flame Swordsman. In the anime, it had the same effect as the Deckmaster.
おめえのデッキマスター能力を教えてくれ。
私のデッキマスター能力は私の攻撃力を100ポイント単位で戦士族モンスターの攻撃力に与える能力です。
However, now, additionally, it had the effect that when it was destroyed, Joey could summon a Flame Swordsman from his deck or grave. In the real world, this monster's effect differs quite heavily from what the anime version did. You can see it's doing the same thing, but just a little bit different. Now, it's worth bringing up that while Flame Swordsman, let's be honest, it was never the core of Joey's deck, but it was always a significant card to him.
Sometimes, when I'm in a duel, I pretend that it's me out there on the field swapping blows with whatever card my opponent has out.
Well, if you were, which card would you want to be, Joey?
This one.
For this reason, I personally think a Flame Swordsman deck is the perfect deck for, let's say, a modern day Joey Wheeler. What deck would Joey play? I think the Flame Swordsman deck should be his actual deck. Don't get me wrong, Red Eyes Black Dragon is always going to be Joey Wheeler's ace card. However, I think a Flame Swordsman deck just suits him more, since it seems to embody more of his traits. Be like a fiery passion, hot-headedness, if you will. Lots of equip spells and traps and monsters in this archetype, which during the Waking Dragons arc was a big thing with his deck and everything. I feel like Red Eyes Black Dragon hasn't really found its identity yet. It doesn't really know what it wants to be as a deck, but that might just be the fact that Red Eyes represents potential. Blue Eyes power, Red Eyes potential. So maybe that's the thing with the Red Eyes archetype decks, because they've got so many different strategies. They've got a ritual version, a burn version, a fusion version. They don't really have a lane to pick. So maybe it's all about potential different ways to play the Red Eyes is, so they just have lots of different jack of all trades style, which is cool, don't get me wrong. I like the fact that you could just have a Flame Swordsman deck for Joey. I don't know, me personally anyway. Now, the original Flame Swordsman has two artworks, and you'll notice in both that he wields the equip spell Salamandra. Back in the day, this is one of the coolest equip spells you could have. Couldn't equip on that many monsters, but artwork wise, awesome. Its effect was it could only be equipped to a fire monster, and when it was, it increased its attack by 700. Now, from these two cards, two series would spawn: the Fighting Flame cards and the Salamandra cards. These were released in 2024's Maze of Millennia. The way the archetype works is that it primarily focuses on a beatdown strategy, by utilizing the fusion monsters alongside the other monsters, spells, and traps in the deck that have abilities to equip themselves onto monsters to grant them attack buffs and other beneficial effects. The idea is to just essentially wail on your opponents until they're dead. In fact, the main play you can do with this card all starts with just one card. You'll need one card in your hand to do potentially an absolute ton of damage, and this is how it goes. You summon Fighting Flame Swordsman. You use its effect to search Flame Sword's realm. You activate it and then send Fighting Flame Swordsman on the field to the grave to special summon the original Flame Swordsman from the extra deck. Fighting Flame Swordsman's effect then activates in the grave, which lets you send Salamandra the Flying Flame Dragon from your deck to the grave. By doing this, Salamandra's effect now activates, which lets you add Salamandra Fusion. You equip Salamandra Fusion to Flame Swordsman, then send both of them to the grave to perform a fusion summon. You get out the boss monster, Ultimate Flame Swordsman. Now we equip Salamandra the Flying Flame Dragon in the graveyard to this monster to increase its attack and grant it a quick effect which allows it to blow up a monster and deal 500 damage. Following this, we can attack using this monster, and when it does, its attack is doubled thanks to its effect, which allows you to deal massive damage. But we're not done. If you're also able to summon out Fighting Flame Dragon, you can equip it onto Ultimate Flame Swordsman to not only grant it an attack boost, but allow it to attack twice. What that sounds like to me is a whole lot of damage. So with all that out of the way, I'm sure you want to know more about these monsters, spells, and traps. Well, first things first, do you remember that time that Joey got turned into the Flame Swordsman? You know, the one in Yami Bakura's Shadow game. Well, we now have a card version of him called Fighting Flame Swordsman. Its effect is, if this card is normal or special summoned, you can add one spell or trap that mentions Flame Swordsman from your deck to your hand. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can send one Flame Swordsman or one monster that mentions it from your deck or extra deck to the graveyard, except Fighting Flame Swordsman. The ultimate boss monster of this archetype is Ultimate Flame Swordsman, made by merging Flame Swordsman and Fighting Flame Dragon together. Its effect is you can target one monster your opponent controls, destroy it, and if you do, inflict 500 damage to your opponent. This is a quick effect if this card is equipped with an equip card. At the start of the damage step, if this card battles, you can double this card's attack until the end of the turn. But if you do, destroy it during the end phase of this turn. We have one Link monster in this archetype, however it did come out quite a bit before all the rest of the support came out, so while it's technically probably not a part of the Fighting Flame whole archetype and everything, it still works absolutely fine with this archetype, and it is a swordsman card, and that is Ferocious Flame Swordsman, which is made by using two monsters with different names. Its effect is that all warrior monsters on the field gain 500 attack. If this Link summon card is destroyed by a battle or an opponent's card effect, while in its owner's monster zone, you can target one non-Link warrior monster in your graveyard, special summon it, but banish it when it leaves the field. Did you notice that 1300 attack? Well, what did I say? All the swordsman cards have 1800 attack, but wait a minute, 1300 plus the 500 attack this monster grants? That's 1800. Very clever. Oh, and do you remember that fiery dragon that appeared in Salamandra? Well, that monster is now its own monster. In fact, it works in a very similar fashion, since all the Salamandra cards in this archetype bestow 700 attack, just like the original. For example, Salamandra the Flying Flame Dragon. While this card is equipped to Flame Swordsman or a monster that mentions it, the equipped monster gains 700 attack. If this card is in your hand or graveyard, you can target one warrior monster you control, equip this card to that monster you control as an equip spell. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add one Salamandra spell or trap from your deck to your hand. Funnily enough, with Salamandra's power, we can actually do something that the anime never could. And that's fusion summon a Flame Swordsman. With Salamandra Fusion, equip only to a fire warrior monster, it gains 700 attack. If the equipped monster will be destroyed by a battle or card effect, you can destroy this card instead. While this card is equipped to a fusion monster you control, you can send this card and the equipped monster to the graveyard, and if you do, special summon one Flame Swordsman or one fusion monster that mentions it from your extra deck. Obviously with this card you can summon the boss monster. However, alternatively you could summon Fighting Flame Dragon. Requires one dragon monster and one fire warrior monster. Its effect is except during the damage step, quick effect. You can target one warrior fusion monster you control, equip this card from your field or graveyard to that monster you control as an equip spell. While this card is equipped to Flame Swordsman or a monster that mentions it, the equipped monster gains 700 attack and can make a second attack during each battle phase. A great monster to equip onto another great monster to go for game. However, did you notice that this monster might possibly be a homage to the Waking the Dragons arc by the fact that Joey's legendary dragon Hermos had the ability to create equip spell monsters using its fusion ability. In a way, this card is the Flame Swordsman equivalent of Red Eye's Black Dragon's sword. And if you thought the references stopped there, don't you worry. Do you remember Joey's iconic card, Kunai with Chain? Its effect was that you could activate one or both of these effects simultaneously. When an opponent's monster declares an attack, target the attacking monster, change that target to defense. Target one face-up monster you control, equip this card to that target, it gains 500 attack. Well, this card now has a retrained and combined with Salamandra form called Salamandra with Chain. Target one fire monster on the field, equip this card to it as an equip card that gives it 700 attack. Then you can change one effect monster on the field to face down defense position. You can banish this card from your graveyard, fusion summon one fire warrior or dragon fusion monster from your extra deck by shuffling its materials from your hand, field, and or graveyard into the deck, but destroy it during the end phase. Now, of course, Joey is a friend of Yugi, so naturally, one of his monsters has to fuse with a Dark Magician. This time, by merging Dark Magician with Flame Swordsman, you get Dark Flare Knight, whose effect was that you take no battle damage from battles involving this card. When this card is destroyed by a battle and sent to the grave, special summon one Mirage Knight from your hand or deck. Mirage Knight's effect was that it couldn't be summoned except with the ability of Dark Flare Knight. During damage calculation, this card gains attack equal to the original attack of the opponent's monster it is battling. During the end phase of a turn this card attacked or was attacked, banish this card. If you remember, these cards debuted in the Virtual World arc, where Yugi and Joey are doing a tag duel against the Big Five. Nowadays, these cards are a bit too slow and not that great. However, luckily, we got a retrain. Instead of Dark Magician slipping into the magical armor, now we have Flame Swordsman in the armor instead, creating Mirage Swordsman. If a face-up fire fusion monster you control is destroyed by a battle or card effect, you can special summon this card from your graveyard or your hand. At the start of the damage step, if this card battles an opponent's monster, you can destroy both battling monsters. If this card is destroyed by battle or another card's effect, you can special summon one level 7 or lower monster that is Flame Swordsman, or mentions it from your deck or extra deck. Dark Flare Knight and Flame Swordsman both appear in the artwork of a card not technically a part of this archetype, but works really well with it, Fusion Armament. Its effect is reveal one fusion monster in your extra deck, special summon one of the fusion materials whose name is mentioned on that monster from your extra deck or graveyard, but until the end of your opponent's turn, it cannot attack, and its effects are negated. An easy way to get out Flame Swordsman, and if you wanted to create a really iconic moment from the manga of Yugioh, well, you'd use the card Fighting Flame Sword. Its effect is activate one of these effects. Add one card from your deck to your hand that mentions Flame Swordsman. When an attack is declared involving a fire warrior monster you control, you can target one card on the field, destroy it. When your opponent activates a card or effect that targets Flame Swordsman or a monster that mentions it, negate that effect. Finally, we have two support cards that I haven't mentioned yet. Flame Swords Dance. If a monster is special summoned, special summon one level 7 or lower fusion monster from your extra deck that is Flame Swordsman or mentions it. They can change one face-up monster on the field to face down defense. During your opponent's battle phase, you can banish this card from your graveyard, tribute one face-down defense position monster, special summon one Flame Swordsman or one monster that mentions it from your deck or extra deck. Flame Swords Realm. Your opponent can activate cards or effects when you normal summon a Fire Warrior monster. Once per turn, you can send one monster from your hand or face-up field to the graveyard, special summon one Flame Swordsman from your extra deck. Once per turn, when a monster declares an attack, you can target one warrior monster you control. Until the end of this turn, it loses exactly 1000 attack, but all other monsters you currently control gain 1000 attack. And with that, that's the Flame Swordsman archetype done. I hope they add more support to this archetype because I quite like it. It seems pretty cool. I want to see more. Want to see a video of Joey Wheeler dueling? Well, I analysed one of his duels right here. Or perhaps you'd rather watch this video. You can watch that one instead if you want to. Other than that, thank you for watching. Catch you later.